Hey guys, today I'm going to do a quick demonstration of the production management workspace. Now, production management is something that actually Podio is very good at managing, um, but every company has a very different way of handling their production, and we couldn't account for all of those in a demo. So system is actually based on a very simple printing manufacturing company. Uh, Production line. So you've got a pre-press, press, finishing, and distribution. Now you can do this in many ways. You can have it so that each a part of the production line has its own workspace, so that only people at that production line see the data they need to see. They can't see anything else in the system. You can skin it about 400 different ways. Here we've just got one workspace, and it's a really simplified system. But it's important that you let the people know that Podio can actually connect to the machines and get data directly from them, if that's something they need to do. Obviously, that costs API integration, and that regardless of the complexities of their production process, we can define and develop a system to manage it, and we can put touch screens via iPads or tablets around their manufacturing center and connect all the data on the shop floor, so that people can very simply say, yes, we're starting a job, yes, we're finishing a job, and all that data can sync right back up into the main system. Now, this also means you can control centrally across many different locations. So if you had a production company that had a manufacturing company or that had production facilities in 5 different locations and 10 different machines on each site, you can actually sync all this data together so that people are using a simple touchscreen interface to give all the information they need to give, and it syncs directly into one centralized system and can automatically report on it. That's a hugely powerful thing that Podio can do. So I'm just going to kind of show you from start to finish, so that when you're demonstrating this, helpful thing to do is to actually have one of these sales pipelines set up for them. Put their company in, put the key decision maker in, set a pipeline up for them. This has already been set up, as you can see. I've already gone through the whole process, so that we've got the invoices have been created and actually paid. We've got some sales updates here that have already been done, and the letter of agreement has already, you'll see it's already been signed. It's ready to go in essence. All we have to do is, we've got all this information from the production line. You see here, quantity needed 5,000. The different specs. So the way manufacturing tends to work is each machine will have certain options. Now again, this is 100% customizable. So this is just one kind of fake demo way of doing it. But you can tell them, look, depending on the type of machine, depending on how you set these machines up for each job or options you've got, they can all be 100% controlled in here. So in this case, you see that the pre-press has 4 fake specs that they can say press has 4 and finishing has 4. You've also got the opportunity to put some sort of production notes in, which are notes that go down to the production team. You've got a date the job is due, which is critical, and the shipping address. That's really all you need for this basic system. You can demo that. We've got all the financial information done. So now all we need to do is we go down here and we say send to production. Click one button, and the job, you see here on the right, it says job is being sent to production, sent by whoever clicked it. Again, they can track it. Date and time that happened. The job's now been created, and it now says, oh, job in production department. So if we just quickly unhide the field, sometimes it unhides it automatically, sometimes it does it, depends on the day, it seems, in Podio. You can now see here's the job. This will take you, clicking here will take you straight to that job in the production order. So if I click through, you'll see all that information. The job ID stays the same as the sales ID. Again, so you can track one thing from sale all the way through the system. You've got the job title, you've got the description. It's now classed as waiting to start, and the current location is not started. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to hide that field. You're not going to have to worry about that again. My apologies. I had meant to do that earlier. So you've got this. You've got the fields. If we look at this job, so now you're in the manufacturing management workspace, right? So just come back out and show you the workspace itself. In the workspace, you can see here on the right, there's some kind of critical things, information they're giving. Here's some manufacturing functionality ideas you can talk them through, of stuff we've built before or have scoped out or designed. In the manufacturing management system, you've got jobs and then an app for each of the stages of the manufacturing process, right? Um, and we start off, that link took us directly to the jobs app. And the job, here's the job that we had that was created. So you now know in that space, you were in the first space, which is jobs. And jobs is sort of like a master app for the manufacturing workspace. It's where you can see all the information. Because from a production management point of view, I just want to see one place and know where everything is. Um, when you're on site and you're doing the work, that's when you go into the other apps. And like I said, you could have this spread out over workspaces so that a manager can just go in here and see everything. But the production, press, for instance, which is one of the stages of the production facility, they can be in one workspace. Only people who have access to that are people actually doing the job, and so that they only see that stuff. If we just take you through this app, like I said, you see the job title. All of this has been brought over. You've got a current location of job, and this is really important because one of the things that we've found with manufacturing companies that don't have a very good system is that they lose track of where the hell everything is. And you'll see as we sort of run this process that updates all the time so that you can very easily see where things are happening. And you can design this to take into account all the different locations, all the different complexities of their system. So we see the job is waiting to start, the production information, quantity needed. These are all of the stages, and you can see that they're all, this is waiting on scheduling, waiting on pre-press, finishing is waiting on press, distribution is waiting on finishing. So the job is basically each section knows a job is coming, but there's nothing to do at the moment. And that's because we have to schedule the date to start pre-press. So again, most times you'll have a production manager who controls these things. He looks at the whole job board and decides when to schedule these things. In this case, we know the job's due here, and I'm just going to set the job as due to start now. Again, you can put times if you want, because for manufacturing, that tends to be critical as well. So the fact that we've now put that in here, you'll see quickly, it now knows it's now in pre-press. Again, you can do this so it triggers by date and can completely customize that. And you'll also see that the current location job has changed to pre-press staging area because it's now assumed that the job is in place because today is the day it started. The job's in pre-press staging area, and we can now proceed with the job. So now we're going to pretend for a moment that we're actually on the shop floor. And I'm just going to go into this app, and as I say, you would be doing this on every day. The people would be using touch screens to actually manage these jobs at the machines themselves. So in pre-press, you see the link to the job, the central job. You don't necessarily have to have that if, for instance, you don't want them to be able to click back, or to be honest, if they don't have access to that workspace, they won't be able to click anyway. You'll see that it now says, instead of waiting on scheduling, it says ready to start. And this is critical. So this stage is ready to start. The others are still waiting. So the next stage, which is press, will be classed as waiting on pre-press. But pre-press is ready to start. We see that the specs are here, so if I'm working on the shop floor, I know it's ready to start. These are my specs. Oh, production notes are here. Quantity needed are here. I'm supposed to start. Great. I could have an automatic task to do that. If I then click in process, a couple things happen. So now, in essence, a timer is started. We have date timed and time stamped exactly when the job has happened. And again, in this demo, we're doing a very simple time tracking. You can get very complex as well. So pauses can be built in, start and stop buttons. You can if you connect machines, you can even trigger machines to stop based on something in Podio. Those are all capabilities we have the ability to design. So at the moment we're in process, and another thing to show you is take the clients back to the job. Now, oh, current location, job in process, in pre-press. So if I was just sitting in an office somewhere and I wanted to check, say a good example of this is you've got sales, you've got production. Sales have passed the job to production, but the client's saying, well, is everything on track? You'd be amazed how much time gets lost by chasing jobs around manufacturing floors. In this case, what we can do, just go straight here. Oh, yep, job's process at the moment. Not in staging, it's in process. We can see the status is in pre-press, and here we can see in process. So again, from a management point of view, you've got this overview of everything, but from an actual working point of view, you've got a couple simple clicks to make. Going back into the actual job again, assuming I'm working on maybe a touch screen, I could now finish my bit. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, okay, I'm completed. And the process we've designed here is they have to put in a number that they have completed. And the reason this is, for this type of manufacturing printing, you'll often do overs, which is extra copies of the things that you need to print in order to make sure that in the future, if something has happened and some get lost or done badly or harmed in any way, you've got extras and you don't have to do another print run because it's the print run that costs all the money. So let's just pretend that I've done 5,500 in this case, right? So I've said quantities needed. I've said quantity completed is 5,500. From our point of view, if I'm in this stage, we're done. If I'm in this machine, I've pressed completed, I've filled in my quantity completed, I'm now done. Take the client back to the job, and you'll see, oh, status has flipped to in press, and the current location of job has flipped to the press staging area 1. Again, all of these are completely customizable. You need to tell them this. Depending on how their manufacturing setup is done, you can do this however they are. You'll also see here, if we look down at that bird's eye view, pre-press has been completed, and press is now ready to start. It's not waiting anymore, it's ready to start. If I scroll down, you'll also see some job date information, and these fill in, these unhide as we fill them in. So pre-press started was at 10:33, pre-press finished was at 10:34. Again, obviously when you're in an actual situation, it would be taking maybe an hour to do or however long. But in this case, we're kind of blowing through this. Take them to the press job, and you'll see the exact same thing. I'm now at the press station. I've got an iPad. I'm working on this. I've got a couple clicks. That's all I need to do. I see that it's ready to start. I've got all the information I need. I've got the job number. I've got the specs I need. Oh, the quantity received from pre-press was actually 5,500, right? Because although we needed 55,000, we decided to do 5,500, 500 overs. So the exact same process happens here. If they click in process, what's going to happen is it's going to date and timestamp exactly when that happened. And so that if I go back to job, it's going to now say, oh, job in process in press. And if I scroll down to the dates, date press started has updated to 10:36. So again, this process is a very simple one, and it works really well. We'll just blow through the rest of it just so you can see the whole process done. If I now complete it, again, I say how many I've completed. In this case, I'm going to go down to 5,250 because we lost 250 because of an alignment problem or a coloring problem. If you've ever worked in printing, you'll see that they run off some, they adjust, they look at it, and then they do it again. And 5,500, and I am now completed. If I come back to the job, it says it's in finishing. Its current location is updated to finishing staging area, number 1, and press is completed. Finishing is now ready to start. It's no longer waiting, and the dates have filled in. Finishing is the exact same process. I'm going to say in process, and you can I think you can understand exactly what's happening, so we won't bother. Looking back, completed, and I'm just going to say 5,100 have been finished. Going back to the job, again, you'll see it's in distribution. It says it's in distribution staging area, and distribution, there you go, it's ready to start. All of these dates have now finished in, press is finished, started, finished, finishing, start, finish. And if I just do the final bit of distribution, now in distribution, what we have here is, again, we've got the same status fields. We've got quantity received from finishing is 5,100. Now, quantity shipped, number of boxes used. Again, this is a very specific thing where a lot of times you'll have you'll need to know that based on pallet size or based on distribution costs from couriers. You've got the shipping address already there. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to click in process. Now, by clicking in process, if I just quickly go back to the job, you'll see it says now packing in process. I'm going to pack all this. I'm going to say quantity shipped is 5,100. And I'm just going to say number of boxes used is 40. Now, what is this, letterhead? No, 2. And probably 1 to be honest. And we are now completed and shipped. So heading back to the order itself, it now says status is sent. Current location on truck / delivered. Quantity needed 5,000. Quantity shipped 5,100. Everything's filled in. All dates are filled in as well, so that we can report on everything. Now, a couple things to make sure you mention to your clients if you're talking manufacturing. Number one, we can track everything down to the individual person as well. So that means that every time someone clicks a button, we can log who's clicked it. Podio already does that, but we can actually log it as well in a specific way so that we can put metrics against them. So, for instance, if you're on the shop floor and you're working the machine and you decide to do a job, you click start, we know it's this engineer who's clicked start and is doing that job. That means we can start to benchmark that engineer's performance on jobs over time, or that engineer's performance on jobs against other engineers. So this can be very applicable where you can spot gaps in training. So imagine for a minute you have 10 people who are doing the same sort of processes, and you think this process should take an hour to complete. But by doing this system in Podio, we can see exactly how long it takes them. And we can start to benchmark both their own performance, but also everybody's performance on each individual type of task. So you could then run a report that says, well, what's the over-under in terms of, we say it's going to take an hour, but actually the average time is 72 minutes. So either that means we need to adjust how much time we think it'll take and adjust billing potentially, or it means that there are people in there who aren't doing the job very well, which means we can very quickly spot education and training issues. That's critical. Another thing to keep in mind when you're talking manufacturing to people is the fact that we can actually link to their systems themselves. Most modern machines have some sort of data output, have some way of getting data into another system. And as long as data can get to another system, we can usually get it into Podio as well. Obviously, with Octoblue, we could actually do it with a drag and drop interface. But now that Octoblue's gone, there are other ways of doing it. Plus, there's direct API or direct connections. Usually, data comes out. Data comes out will come out in a format. So it's almost always possible to relate that format into Podio. And that's one thing. The other thing is to show them, to explain to them how easy it is for their shop floors to install simple touch screens at each machine and get rid of paperwork completely. This is particularly true when you're looking at an organization that maybe has multiple manufacturing production points. So they've got maybe 4 or 5 different locations, maybe across different countries. Imagine how powerful it would be for them if they have all the information from every machine, for every job, in all locations, in all countries, coming into one centralized system. And, with the data available immediately. You could be sitting in a head office and watch manufacturing happen across all your locations. And finally, what I just want to make sure that you can get across to people is the automation capabilities. Now, you saw there basic automation, things like statuses moving and prepping one next stage for another. That's one way. That's very simple stuff. But you can build in incredibly complex automations as well, including things like customer updates. So, for instance, we could do it so that every stage customers were emailed an update of where their job is. We can build in warnings in terms of if a job is taking, if a job is, if quantities have gone wrong, if the quantities that they've produced aren't the quantities needed, we can have automated warnings. There are a lot of possibilities, both communication, warnings, triggers, off of this that they can design based on their own needs and their own processes. And that's something that, if you look at most of the off-the-shelf systems, it costs them fortunes to try and customize stuff. Here, we can build it to exactly what they need all the time. So that's really a key bit about manufacturing. Um, Another useful thing is that, for instance, you could add in things like tracking numbers for if you're using courier systems, so that you can automatically send those to the client. Again, as soon as a tracking number is sent, is put in, and the job is marked as left the factory, it can automatically send an email to the client saying, "Hey, good news. Here's what's happening. You're receiving this many quantity in this many boxes. This is when it's left our factory. Here's your tracking number." Boom. That can be automatically done. You can integrate things like barcode scanners. Again, it's very possible to integrate, but it's an extra integration. But there's a huge amount of efficiency that we can bring into manufacturing. I've done a lot of work in manufacturing logistics over the years, so if you have any clients, please don't hesitate to give me a shout and ask any questions.